Think it's time we rise up, people. It's time's up, people. You can talk all you want, but it won't change a thing. I wanna know what you do. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Up and Up with Jodi Newell. I'm sure you're all familiar with the Green New Deal, but do you know about the Thrive Agenda? Hold on to your hats, folks, because you're going to love it. I already know it. Here to tell us about it and how you can support this upcoming legislation is Maddy Springfield. She is, I want to say regional organizer for New Hampshire Youth Movement. What is your official title?
I'm the Keene Hub organizer. So I kind of organize the Keene area, but I work also with the statewide New Hampshire Youth Movement.
Okay. I like it. See, I wouldn't have guessed that. Keene Hub. I love this new terminology I'm learning every day. Awesome. Welcome to the show, Maddy. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm really excited.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So first of all, I'm super excited to have you on the show. New Hampshire Youth Movement is doing amazing things. And I've wanted to have you guys on for quite a while now. So let me just ask, can you tell us a little bit about what New Hampshire Youth Movement is and, how you came to be involved in it?
Yeah, so New Hampshire Youth Movement, we're a grassroots organization run by young people in the state working to basically make our politics work for the people that they've pushed to the bottom. And we kind of started right after the 2016 election when Trump got elected. And yeah, we focus on a range of issues. We focus mostly on things like clean energy, racial equity, gender equality, literally anything progressive. But no, we work alongside all different organizations like RAD and other members in the state. But yeah, it's a really awesome organization. I actually just started, I was a volunteer at first for probably the past year or so. And then they needed a spot for the New Hampshire Hub, the Keene Hub. And we have hubs throughout the state because it's a youth-focused organization. So we have one at UNH, one at Plymouth, one in the Seacoast. So we kind of have this kind of decentralized model where we have, them in these local communities where we can focus on local issues and events like the one that's upcoming with the Thrive Agenda. And when it comes to statewide action, we kind of come together and we get things done. As of recently, we fought tooth and nail against the student voting rights that we're trying to get passed through the House. And we had some students testify and people sign in to oppose these bills, and they actually all got shot down. So those are some of the types of things we do. Student voting rights is a huge one because, as we've seen, Republicans in the state are trying to literally make it impossible for young people to vote. So that was a really cool accomplishment that we have, but we also support our communities in, urgent actions like what was happening in the Manchester area where they were evicting homeless people in the area. So we do a whole range of issues, but it's an awesome organization to work for so far. And I've just learned so much about New Hampshire politics and the potential that we have to transform our state into one that, works for those marginalized communities that it's pushed away.
Absolutely. So as far as the Thrive Agenda, this is so what we're focusing on right now is the Thrive Agenda. And can you kind of give us like an overview? What is the Thrive Agenda about? What's the focus or main tenets?
So for me, the Thrive Agenda it's basically the most transformative bill I've seen to address, the four main crises that we're experiencing right now.
This is why we must pass the Thrive Agenda.
It's time to transform, heal, and renew by investing in vibrant economies.
Because it's high time that our federal government implement a just recovery to support Black, Indigenous,
working class, and immigrant communities.
These same communities are home to frontline workers who are getting sick and dying at a higher rate than anyone else.
We need to see jobs created that support frontline workers,
so that we can continue to work while our loved ones are being taken care of, while they're the most vulnerable.
Our communities deserve to be healthy. We deserve jobs with living wages.
We need to build things in America again
in a way that isn't going to exploit the environment.
The Thrive Agenda retrains those who will be put out of the fossil fuel industry.
We have the resources, but we must bring them all together and make the connection between climate and the economy and race.
The Thrive Agenda moves us towards justice, sustainability, and right relationship with our Earth.
I've always, these past couple of years, been following like the Green New Deal and been super excited for things like that. But this kind of goes a little further and really kind of writes out these policies and like certain things that we want to see done. And one thing that the Thrive Agenda really sticks with me is that we can't address one of these crises without addressing all of them. So for example, racial injustice, we cannot tackle climate change unless we tackle racial injustice. Mm-hmm. We cannot tackle climate change unless we tackle mass unemployment and income inequalities. So for me, it's just such a holistic, interconnected policy where we're addressing these really, really systemic issues, but then we're also, bringing in these frontline workers. We're bringing in the BIPOC community. We're bringing in Indigenous communities, which policies, as we know, have been so lacking. Mm-hmm. And what excites me is that I really do think it has the potential to make it to Biden's desk. It's not something you dream about. I actually think it can get there. It has a lot of support from moderate Dems so far, like Cori and Chuck Schumer. I think if it does end up on his desk, he's going to sign it because he's talked about these things. Well, we hope, politicians sometimes don't do what they promise, but I truly do think right now with the state of our federal delegation that it can get there. And it really excites me that we can actually tackle these problems that sometimes seem insurmountable, but this policy kind of makes you believe that we can actually have a better world that's different than the messed up world we're in right now.
Let's just put it into context, okay? Because like what was it called? The tax cuts and jobs thing, like whatever it was that Trump wanted to call it, that was, it was over 1,000 pages. I want to say it was something like 1,200 pages or something. I remember like looking it out and being like, okay, now what is like the average person's reading cadence, and like how long would it take for people to read it? Because it was so hastily put together that I was like, there is no way that anyone would have been able to read through it. Now, the Green New Deal was, I want to say it was like 4 or 5 pages. It was very, very short. It might have even been less than that. And basically when the Green New Deal was put out, that was an outline and saying like, okay, here are the broad brush things that we want to address. And it seems to me like Thrive kind of fills in some of the blanks. Do you agree?
Yes, I totally agree. Similar to what you were saying, the Green New Deal kind of, I think, is an outline or kind of just a direction, but the Thrive Agenda kind of takes these and runs with it and says like, this is how we're actually gonna fight systemic racism. This is how we're gonna involve Indigenous communities. Some like tangible stuff you can hold on to and say like, this is how many jobs we're gonna provide with clean energy. Mm-hmm. So that's super exciting.
The opposition will exploit kind of vagueness, right? So if there's any vagueness, then they will fill that in with, they're going to take away all of your hamburgers and you're never going to be able to fly again. Just, these kind of things that get filled in and you're like, wait, how did you jump from this to that? But there wasn't anything in between. One of the things that I really love about the Thrive Agenda is when you talk about racial justice, right? Is that it really spells out exactly what that looks like. And I think in general, when we talk about, we have this word reparations that to many people mean many different things, right? But what are reparations at its heart is to repair for the damage that's been done, right? And so we can spell it out in this way if it can be spelled out in this way, and if it's more clear that this is the harm that was done, and this is exactly what we're doing to make reparations, not to reuse that over and over, but to repair the damage that's been done, then there's a direct correlation. And I think it's easier for people to wrap their mind around.
Yep. I totally agree.
So in general, this is a federal legislation, right? So this is not something that's specific to New Hampshire. But of course, each state we all need to urge our representatives and let's be real. I mean, we just went through, I thought it was so sad looking at this vote for the $15 minimum wage being in the, well, they want to call it the stimulus and stuff like that. I want to call it survival. Like that's really all it is, right? But at the end of the day, when it came down to a vote, you're looking at these list of legislators that went pro and con, and the people who went against it, there were two. It made me so sad and ashamed of my state. We have two Democratic senators who both voted against that. So we have an interesting situation in New Hampshire. Like I don't know how else to say it. It's bizarre in a way, right? So I kind of want to explain that to people because I don't think most people understand. I've only been here for about 5 years or coming up on 6. I don't know. It's been a while. But anyway, it's been a while, but not that long. So I'm kind of still learning about it, and things still surprise me as I hear about them in New Hampshire. So I'm wondering, I'd love to kind of have a little bit of a conversation of like the dynamics in New Hampshire and how we expect our senators and U.S. representatives to react, or can we have an expectation at this point? I don't know.
I know. It's a hard question because you want to say that they will support it, that, they will support something that helps their communities, that helps people of color, that helps the environment, as they say that that's some of their priorities. They run on this platform that says, I'm all for clean energy and good paying jobs, but then they go and they vote against the $15 minimum wage increase. So it's for me, I don't really, after what they did, I don't really trust them. And I don't really trust that they will automatically say, oh yeah, I'll totally support that. That sounds like they'll really, really have to be pushed on this. And though there are some moderate Dems who have signed on to the Thrive agenda, that's not enough. Like as we saw with the $15 minimum wage, there were a lot of moderate Dems who signed on to that, but they were the two who didn't sign on. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. But I think if they feel a big enough push from their communities, then they will support it. But it really all comes down to how much we push them, what stake they see themselves in it, if they have a fear that they might not get reelected if they don't pass something like this. But I don't know, it's pretty up in the air right now because of how weird their voting track record is. But if there's a big enough push, which I think there will be because it's such an awesome bill and so many people support it, that I think there is potential that they will sign on to it.
Cool. I mean, I'm with you. Let's have that hope. I feel like it's you have to, right? You did not expect, right? Like not set your, expectations high, but still have that hope, I guess. And at the end of the day, what are you going to do? You're not just going to sit around on your hands. You're going to get up and you're going to do something about it. And you're going to try and demonstrate that support within their community. So let's talk about that. Tell us about what the action is. I know we're doing it in Keene, but in the broader New Hampshire. What's going on?
Yeah, so actually it's a nationwide effort, which I think is really cool. It's happening all across the US. And basically this week is when the federal delegates come home. They come home from DC for their recess. And this is the time that we can jump on them and say, this is what we want and demand it from them. Because when they're in DC, sometimes it's hard to get to them, but now they're home and they have to look us in the face and say, no, I'm not gonna support a living future. Like I'm not gonna support good jobs that will help my community. So on the 31st, all across the US, cities, towns, anything. They're basically, protesting and talking to their delegates to say, this is what we want. Even if they do support it, are they going to go to bat for this? Are they going to fight for it? And if they don't support it, like our delegates, we show up pissed off that they have not signed it. I'm really looking forward to it. And though they might not be the biggest actions, but I think when these delegates hear their constituents are passionate about this, they're more likely to sign on to it. So fingers crossed it'll be effective. But I know in my experience and my friends and my workers, like, this was a chance for us to really understand what the Thrive agenda is and how friggin' awesome it is and why we need to pass it. So I think that's, even if it's not as effective as we hope, it did make progress in that. And we're growing that people power.
I think it's how you measure effectiveness, right? It's interesting. There's this little tidbit that I actually remember this from state and local government when I was like 19 years old or whatever, like my first time through college. And it takes 7 points of contact for someone to remember your name, right? And so like, I remember this being told in the context of you're running for office, right? And so you want to have 7 points of contact, right? You're going to go to the door, that's going to be one contact. You're going to send a piece of mail, that's going to be another one. A commercials, all these kind of things adding up to whatever. And I think when it comes down to it, the Thrive agenda, we all at this point know the Green New Deal. And let's just be honest, right? Let's just be real and acknowledge the fact that whatever it was a few years ago, the Green New Deal was not even a thought in anyone's head, right? But yet we all know that terminology now. Not only do we progressives know that terminology, but everyone else knows that terminology. This is worldwide. I mean, probably worldwide. I know it's nationwide at this point, but probably worldwide as well, where people are familiar with the Green New Deal. It takes that repetition and that, whatever. And even when you say it, people may not understand what it exactly means. And let's be perfectly honest that I think there are a lot of conservatives who don't necessarily know what the Green New Deal means. But that's part of it, right? Is that it's all about education and awareness. And every time that you stand up and every time that you, make that vocal or visual or something, when that's a point of contact in someone's mind, that's important. It's significant and it's all building on something. So when we talk about effectiveness, it's easy to measure the effect of certain things, right? So if there's a direct correlation where you can say this happened and then that happened, a lot of times, so that's nice and that's easy and that's rewarding, right? Mm-hmm. But in social movements, sometimes we don't have that. Sometimes we have the fact that we feel like we're talking into a void, for most of the time, but there may be one or two people who hear that and then it turns into, then they talk to another person, they turn into another person, talk to another person. It spreads, and that's the way social movements work. I just think that I am a huge admirer and supporter of activists, and I mean like everyday activists. And I feel like I just want to remind people of the impact that it has. Just these tiny things that you don't think make a difference. It may be hard to quantify, but it makes a difference, right? So anyway, maybe I'm feeling a little defensive or something, but I feel like people need to hear that sometimes. And I feel like a lot of times people get discouraged and need to remember that. And no matter how small it is, you're still making a difference. We know what's happening in New Hampshire, and we know that this is happening all over the country. So I'm just curious, how can people get involved, whether they're in New Hampshire or any other state?
With the Thrive agenda, the event, or just the Thrive agenda in general?
I just mean like with supporting, open-ended. So wherever you take it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So honestly, I think the first step is educating yourself, because, you can't show up to these day of actions. You can't email your representative if you don't actually, feel confident that you know what it's about. And I think when you read up about it and learn about it, you figure out, like, it strikes a chord. You're like, okay, yeah, I want clean water and clean air for children. Yeah, I want healthcare. I want unionized jobs. And I think that's number one, the first step. That was, kind of the first step for me is when you learn about it, then you kind of take it with you and you don't forget about it and you talk about it in the day to day and you support things on social media and it's just a domino effect like you talked about before. Actually, a map you can find online that tells you like if there's an action near you, which I think is really cool. And it's super effective if you're out of the state or you're in state. That's I think going to be an awesome opportunity. And even you can go to these events and not really know that much about Thrive and learn about it. A lot of the speakers will be talking about what the hell Thrive is because, the mainstream doesn't know about it. So I think it's a good opportunity to go and at least show support and learn about it. And other than that, if you can't make it in person, there's a ton of online platforms you can watch these events on. So that the Thrive agenda is actually put on by the Green New Deal Network. So if you kind of Google the Thrive agenda, you'll find their main page and there's a lot of really cool information on that. Like they have tools where you can call your representative. So you'll put in your name, your address, and then it'll send you a way to contact your representative, which going into the next step, I think we as citizens, I don't think utilize it enough that these people are supposed to be representing us. They, not all of them, but, they want to hear what their constituents want. And I mean, before I got involved in politics, I didn't even know like who my representatives were or who my senators were. So I think finding out who those people are, contacting them, emailing them, even if it's just a short email, like explaining what the Thrive agenda means to you and why it's so important for you and your community and how it's going to make a difference. Really, those personal stories, I think, make a difference. And social media, it's just so effective. I think reaching out to your representatives, if they haven't supported it, just bombarding them with tweets and Facebook comments and stuff like, why haven't you signed on to the Thrive agenda? Just being vocal about it. And imagine if your whole community, sent emails to your representative. Yeah, I think education's key. Just finding ways to support, even if it's virtual or in person, and then just pestering your politicians to follow it, and then keeping up with, the progression of the Thrive agenda and see if there's any ways to help. I'm sure in the future, the Green New Deal Network will probably do events where like you can call like phone banks and stuff. So just kind of, hit a follow to I think the Thrive or the Green New Deal Network has like Twitters and Facebooks, I think it's effective to like follow these accounts and keep up with ways to plug in and support.
Right. Absolutely. And I think a lot of the things with social media, not only boosting to, boost the algorithm and all that kind of stuff, which we all think we can figure out. We don't really. It's that multiplier effect, right? So like if I have something that I'm sharing, then people are learning about it and my friends are learning about it. And I love that about social media, even the ones that I hate. Twitter, like seriously, sorry, makes me angry. But I'll still watch it. I'll still like pay attention to it because I do actually find out information about things that I wouldn't otherwise know about. You know what I mean? So, yeah, absolutely. So share, learn about it, educate yourself so that you can speak knowledgeably about it to other people. I mean, and that's really what it comes down to for us, because we live in a representative democracy. It may be completely fucked. Let's be real. We got a lot of problems with this representative democracy. But if we're going, I'm sorry, you're like, don't mind me.
I totally agree. I'm like mad about it.
I mean, I wouldn't blame anybody for being mad about it. I'm mad about it myself. But here's the thing. At the end of the day, the power that we have is the power to educate, advocate, and lift up our voices. And it may feel futile when it's just you, but the more you educate and the more you advocate and the more you stand out there and you make a stink about it, the more people are going to stand up and say, wait, that's what I want too. How come that's not happening? Or learn about it and things like this. And so I'm not a rosy-eyed, oh yeah, everything's going to be lovely because we live in a democracy. But at the same time, you can't sit around and bitch about it. You get out and you do something about it. And that's the only way anything is going to get done.
You know, like you said, every voice matters, and we need to uplift those around us and the activists and do what we can. You know, you can't accomplish everything in one day and do it all yourself, but you can play your role and support people you can. And
all right. Thank you for coming, and thank you everyone for watching. And if you like this broadcast, I mean, first of all, do what you can to support the Thrive Agenda. And then second of all, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you have the means, please support us on Patreon. All right. Love you. Bye.
Support Thrive if you want green transit, green infrastructure.
We would be able to create millions of good-paying jobs.
Unionized, high-paying, clean energy jobs.
Clean air.
Clean, safe, affordable drinking water.
And the further strengthening of our union rights.
Those most in need cannot be an afterthought.
We need a sustainable way to do our work.
And I need my children and my children's children to have a safe and healthy world.
Based on solidarity, cooperation, and self-determination here in Jackson, Mississippi.
Here in New York City.
Baltimore.
Inez, Kentucky.
Lansing, Michigan.
New Orleans.
Salt Lake City.
San Diego, California.
Here in my home of Alaska.
On Yokota Territory, known as Fresno, California.
In Miami, Florida.
That's what the Thrive Act symbolizes for me, empowerment for all oppressed communities here in America.
We have the power and the ability to create together and help people across the country get behind that vision as well.
To me, the Thrive Agenda says, "T'ilku nechidnu." We are working as one.